Hey guys, it's your boy Chris Lawyer. Welcome to my second Patreon video. In this one we are going to talk about drum processing, how to make your drums sound full, better, bigger, stronger, fatter. So this is all this video is about. We have this drum section. And we have quite a few things going on here. Before everything else, I want to talk about these sections, like this, for example. It's a track delay function, what you can turn on from here. And by turning this on, for example, you see -5 here, -1, +6. So what it does, if you go really close to here and you try to move this stuff around. So at the bottom you see it's at -0.32.9 10, and if you pull it earlier, or for now it's at positive values, so +6, so actually it's going to land around here. All right, so you see it here, but it's going to play from here. If you go in negative values, for example -12, it's going to play 12 seconds early, so 12 milliseconds early. So from here we go all the way to right here. So it's going to play 12 milliseconds earlier. At claps, it's a really good way to just pull in the clap. For example, at here I already pulled it earlier, but I also applied 1 milliseconds right here. So it's going to play 1 milliseconds earlier, and it's just bringing in the clap, or the clap plays a little bit earlier than the kick. So for example, on the clap, it's 5 milliseconds. Actually, let's just solo the kick and the clap, and you can exactly hear what's going to happen. So let's set it to 0. I'll solo this also. Now I'm turning on the mastering chain. And let's turn it -13. If I'm going further, you can hear that it's too early, but -13 plays just a little bit earlier than the kick, and it pulls the kick really strongly in. So this is a really good technique how to make your drums sound more funky. Okay, so next to that I also have applied return channels, and I have a small reverb which is 679 milliseconds, a whole reverb which is 1.36 seconds, and also pay attention on the dry and wet. So if you use a return channel, always make sure that the effect is 100% dry and wet, and from here you can decide how loud you want your track to be sent onto the return channel. And I usually, when I work, I send them to the return A, so the small reverb. Always use the same amount, so -20 here on the clap, -20 on the snare, also like on the head -20. And the C is appearing here. With the return C, I'm trying to recreate the Haas effect. You see dry and wet all the way up, and the left delay is 1 milliseconds and the right side is 10.5. Let's just go to here and put it all the way up. So it's not playing at the same time. If I'm going to exaggerate that, it's more like an echo. But if I turn it down, is going to phase cancel. So you want to find a right amount for the delay between left and right side, so they appear as same instrument, but also they get your mix fuller. Next to that, I also have a different kind of delay what I use on different instruments, and also a saturator, which I use when some element of the drum section, or maybe also the bass section, is not fat enough. So I want to send it to the return E channel, to the saturator. The saturator is creating upper harmonics. All right, now, so you have this track delay function and also using the return channels. Now, if you're using a MIDI channel, let's just find a nice sound bank. K-sides have a lot of good samples. Let's find a one shot. Okay, this percussion. I like this one. So we are just going to make a MIDI pattern, use 16 grids, and this is a sound what we are going to have. Let's just lower the volume now. So it's a really robotic one. How can we splice it up? For example, you can change the utilities. So you can do something like this. Actually, here I want a louder volume. And now let's just copy this and have it like that. And compared to this one, it's also a lot more groovy, because the volume level is different. But how you can take it further, for example, let's just go to the specs and search for swings. And we are going to use an MPC swing in this case, but you have a lot of other swings like Logic Notator. You can choose what you like. I really like to use the MPC 16 and 65 one. And you just grab it and pull it to the MIDI. And let's check what happened. Actually, I want to duplicate this and turn this off. So you will hear with the swing and without the swing. Even if we just turn the velocity off like this, let's go. It's a nice groove. Now, so what happened here? We applied the swing. By hitting commit, you already going to see in the MIDI how it's changed. Okay, so without, with, without, with. So you see there are points that stayed where they had to stay. And these are the hard notes, so between each kick. Like every kick would happen here and here. And right on the kick and right between the kick, so 1.1.3, these are the hard notes. The swing does not apply to those. But for example, we had a note here which moved there. So the swing is already doing these things what we did here with the track delay, but it's kind of an automated version for that, and it creates a nice groove. Your rhythm is just going to be more funkier. So if you're working with MIDI notes, it's a really good technique. According to this, which is a really robotic, constant, just no life in this. So I also wanted to let you know that. All right, so after this, what I used on the drums, like let's listen to it. And for a second, I'm just turning the mastering chain off. So I'm turning the mastering volume up, or the master channels volume. And this is the beat what we have. So now we used a lot of different samples from different sound banks, and what I want to do is to make them appear that they are recorded in the same room and they are treated the same. So, you know, removing the frequencies, what we don't need. For example, in the clap, you don't really need these low frequencies because they are just going to gather up and maybe cancel out the bass. Let's just say we did the treatment all right, and now we want to get our drums sound better. So there are two ways what I'm going to show you. There are a lot of other ways, but we are going to check on two really good ways what I use all the time. One of them is a glue compressor. So what's the point of that? We want to treat all the drums together. Like you can also send it to a drum bus, but since we are working in a group, and I'm using the slowest attack of this glue compressor, which is 30 milliseconds, and I use a really short release. Next to that, I'm using a ratio 2:1. So what the compressor does, it's like you have a signal and it attenuates the louder parts and it's boosting the quietest parts. And meanwhile, the sound is also going to be less louder. So it's going to be quieter. And here you have a makeup, which you can compensate the loss in the volume level. And with the threshold, it's going to define how much of the sound that the compressor is going to compress. And I want to find a level which is hitting around -5. Usually that's the right value, what I like to work with. But I also want to have a time that it has the time to return back to 0. And sometimes when I cannot find the right release, I'm just going to turn it to auto. It sometimes, most of the times, works really well. But in this case, I wanted a really short release. So you can save this compressor, you can just follow the settings. It usually works really nice. Let's work with 0 threshold. Yeah, because the makeup, it's already louder. Let's turn the makeup down. And let's work with this part. And I'm going to turn the threshold down. And I'm already hearing it's pumping a lot better and the sound is working a lot better, but it's quieter. Meanwhile, it's quieter. So without the compressor, the volume level is minus 8.5. So let's aim for the same volume level. With the makeup, we can compensate it. So let's compare before and after. For my ears, it sounds already a lot better. Now I believe that these sounds are recorded in the same room, treated the same, and also I think it's a professional manner to approach the drums. I'm also going to show you this EQ band saturator, which first we are going to listen to, then I'm going to describe what happens. So without it, with it, really powerful way of treating your drums. Right now you see we have an audio effect track, which you can find actually in audio effects. So you just pull an audio effect track and you then create 3 chains, Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V, and you can also rename them by clicking right on them, rename, or Command R, and you can give the names to that. So this is how you create an audio rack with different chains. And on the lows I have, for a second, let's turn the compressor and the other treatment off, so we see the really important part of this. So on the lows I use all the frequencies under 100 Hz. On the highs I'm using the frequencies over 6000 Hz, and on the mids I'm using the frequencies between 100 Hz and until 6000 Hz. So with this one we are treating the frequency levels under 100 Hz, here 100 to 6000 Hz, and here everything over 600 Hz. So this way we can really control the sound. And what I wanted to do to solo the lows and to compress the lows a little bit. So without the compression, so right here you can see that it compressed a bit, and I turned the auto makeup off. With this output knob you can really be precise about how much volume you want to give to your lows, so it won't sound louder than before. On the mediums or mid frequencies I also added a saturator and a compressor. Without them, so this is the original after the saturation. So like adding a bit of upper harmonies, not too much, dry wet is on 25%, and then I also compress them. Really nice. And I also did the same with the highs. I turned on the saturator and a compressor. I didn't end up using the overdrive because I think it didn't work well with this kind of drums. It just destroys the sound too much. Okay, so now let's listen to the drums without the treatment. Also turn the master on. With the treatment, pumping much more heavily. Really like the sound. And now let's listen to it in context. First without the treatment and then with the treatment. Fucking nice! Drums are really important because they are the essential of the track, and if you get the drums right, it's much more easier to go further with your production. Let's compare EQ band saturator, uncompressed, and glue compression. So So EQ band saturator, or actually it's a multiband compression. So let's just rename multiband compression. It's more dirty. I really like this sound. And the glue compressor, it's a really clean sounding compression. You can also go, for example, with a compressor, and this is a New York style compression. So heavy ratio, slow attack, slow release. Actually, we go for the slowest this time, and even ratio can be 10 to 1. So what we are going to do is work with the dry and wet. So compressed, too heavily compressed. But you can work with the dry and wet and find a good level where the drums, the compressed drums and the clean drums, so like the dry drums, are working together really nice. And let's also check the volume level, because I think it's too loud now. Minus 9.5. Alright, so it's a bit louder, but you can really hear how it changed the sound. So this is also a commonly used technique. So 3 techniques: glue compressor, multiband compression, and New York style compression. Go check them out and try it in your own production. If you got any questions, feel free to ask, I will try to help. Alright, so this was today's video. I hope you like it, I hope you find it useful, and I see you in the next one. Peace!
Who's doing what?